Let's hop into where we're at with the main market right now because it is, and there goes the camera again for some reason. I'll fix that in a minute. But with the market right now, so BTC, yeah, we had forgot to even say this, but the halving has actually happened now. So that has officially occurred anyway, and to really to no one's notice. I mean, it just kind of happens and you move on. So that has occurred. I was just going to pull up the prices. We have BTC sitting here at a little bit of a dip today, 64.2K. ETH, maybe holding its own on this dip a little bit, but it's still been bleeding against BTC. It's at 3150 or so right now. As far as where we sit there, it's still kind of consolidating in the range that it's been in is BTC. It sounds horrible to many, but the best scenario for us really, and you and I have kind of been talking about this, Ewok, but the best scenario, kind of going back to the poll question that we set for this bull market, would be to kind of range here for the rest of the year. The extreme good version of what could happen the rest of this year that I don't think many people are thinking is going to happen or hoping is going to happen, but I actually would appreciate it, is the one scenario in our poll where I say basically we've topped for the year and we just kind of hang out in this area for the rest of the year, because that will very likely mean that 2025 gets insane and then we go even more insane into 2026. Now I know that's excruciating in the meantime. I mean, it already is excruciating for our ecosystem, but people just waiting for things to happen and stuff like that. I know time is shaking people out, but that really would be like the most bullish thing. Now, the more how we drew it up type scenario would be that we do kind of do the scenario we pointed out in the poll where we get to maybe 85K, something like that later on this year and continue on with a normal cycle. And then, of course, the left translated, which we've talked a lot about, would be a blow off top just later this year again, which I don't think any of us really want that much. So, yeah, what do you make of that? I mean, we want the market overall to consolidate like this for a while and maybe be boring for the rest of this year or for the most of it. But, yeah, what do you make of those scenarios and what do you see, Ewok?
Well, I was looking for a post. I can't remember who put it up the other day. It might have even been Trevon. But he mentioned that, or he showed a chart of like 90 days after the halving and what the price correlation was with it, as far as the date went, and then what it was like 90 days after. And each time it's up a little bit. I mean, we're going to see price go up. It's just going to be very, very slow. I think, again, I think that's good. We don't want to run parabolic and have one of those blow off tops. I don't think anyway. It could do what it did in, what was that, 2021, where it did top out in April, and then we had a double top in November. So that is a possible scenario, but we've got the rest of this year to just kind of slowly grow. The supply shock is basically what's happening because the halving, and there's not as much hitting the market, but you realize going from 12 BTC down to 6 was considerably a lot more than 6 down to 3. So, I think it's going to be a little bit more gradual. I don't think the supply shock is going to hit as hard because of that. I mean, there's obviously it's worth a lot more than what it was then, but it's truly the amount of Bitcoin that's actually hitting the markets from the miners. And, it's not decreasing by that much. So, yeah, I mean, it's just I think we just consolidate here throughout the rest of the year. We're going to have a few pullbacks too. What it has to be in order to stay healthy. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the way I see it playing out. I do think we're going to start to see Ethereum catch up in that little ratio between Bitcoin ETH ratio. I think we start to see that maybe pick up a little bit more. Which is also healthy because it's been on the downside for quite a while. So we kind of need that to happen at the same time. But yeah, that's how I see it playing out.
Great point. Yeah, we need that ETH thing to happen, and that's the thing. Like in this recent dump, we've seen ETH go from it was over 0.05 or whatever it is to BTC, and now we've seen it drop below that even. And the real area that we're looking for ETH to close on BTC for like full blown alt season run would be like the 0.6, 0.61 area or something right around there. So yeah, we've seen ETH bleed a little bit against it. That's obviously going to be even worse when it comes to altcoins. It's not going to help them out at all. But for stuff like our ecosystem, and I don't want to keep even pointing it to just ours, but like for the rest of crypto and altcoins and stuff like that, we're going to need to see ETH become stronger. And we've talked about how ETH was really strong in the bear market. Like, it didn't hit those $500 levels that people were talking about. We had I never remember what this is called, the surge or the merge way back in
The
like
merge, yeah.
21. Yeah, that narrative kind of helped hold it up a little bit, but we are seeing it struggle here. So that's the thing. Like, while that may seem bearish, and there's people like Ben Cohen and stuff like that, like Bitcoin maxis all over Twitter that are like, see, everything else is a scam. Like BTC is what it's always been. Hail BTC, pray to the BTC gods, blah 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 blah. But that is like, okay, I want to buy like all the ETH that I possibly can, you know what I mean? Or anything that is correlated with it, because,
Right.
Ethereum's not going away, obviously. It's really better than ever at this point. You have Vitalik like literally making like roadmaps for it. So yeah, I mean, we're going to see it run, and you best believe that the rest of the market comes back up with it. And that's why I'm so hopeful of that scenario where, even though it's going to suck real bad this year to just kind of go sideways the whole time, if that would happen, it just makes me think that we're going to see ETH and altcoins go absolutely parabolic like we couldn't have ever believed. And that's what we all want. And if it means waiting an extra year, sign me up,
Yeah.
What do you got here, though?
I'm just looking at the BTC ETH chart versus ETH anyway. So
Yeah.
it does, nothing's really jumping out at me other than, what we've been seeing is it's just kind of pulling away. But
Yeah, we're gonna have to see that gap close, and you would think that happens when we start to get bullish prices again. If we get BTC back to an all-time high, whether that be in a couple of months here towards the end of this year, I would think that that's when you're going to see the slingshot of ETH and the rest of altcoins.
I agree.
So, yeah,
I agree.